There were many, many times every day when I thought, how the hell did I end up here? This wasn't me, this wasn't the person I thought I was. That shame and regret is deep. It's in the soul, that's where it strikes you. That's where it hurts, yeah.
Not too long ago, Mark was a married father working for the trade union movement.
I spent many, many years working for the trade union movement, mainly in occupational health and safety and workers' compensation, in Victoria principally, and I worked for the Trades Hall Council for many years in that role. Moved to New South Wales and had a position with the Work Cover Authority there in the Strategic Planning Department.
A number of negative events, life changes and alcohol issues changed everything. Mark's life began to spiral out of control.
Family situations, some deaths in my own family, a decision to relocate back to Victoria where I had been for many years. Decisions I thought were in the interests of my family, but turned out to be very, very poor outcomes for them in particular. I had been drinking up to that point, but it got seriously out of control. I could see my children in particular and my wife reacting differently to me, the way I was behaving differently with friends and in a social situation. So yeah, I could see what was going on, but it was in control of me. Yeah. On a couple of occasions, I sought sort of immediate sort of crisis help, and that got me through some particularly bad moments. But I didn't go on with that. I slid back into that pattern that I had been in.
With things unravelling at home, Mark was forced to leave.
Homelessness is a very short step from the situation I was in. There's many, many ways people end up in this situation, but for me, I still had my family's interests at heart enough to realise I was the one that had to leave the situation, and that was the reason for the separation from my family. Yep. And there's only so much that your friends and associates will put up with you sleeping on their couch and still drinking before even those options disappear. So pretty shortly, and I'm talking about a period of a few months, I found myself without friends, without help, without support, without money, and despite having a long history of working for employed people's rights, a remarkable lack of knowledge about what was out there to help people in a homeless situation. And that's where I was.
With no knowledge of the services available, Mark was forced onto the streets.
I slept rough for a while. Became familiar with the underside of the Merry Creek Bridge and a few other fairly poor places around Melbourne. There was a reluctance I had to front up at agencies that I thought could help. There's a huge swallowing of pride and huge amounts of guilt and regret that can stop you looking for the help that may well be there. And that really got in my way for many, many years of looking for good help. I'd had a very full, active life. All the things that sustained me intellectually and in the way I conducted myself were gone. You feel almost a sense that you're walking around with a label on you. It's not really that way. The traditional pictures of what homeless people are and how they appear aren't true, but you do feel it. You can feel almost exuding from yourself, and a lot of that came from me, but there is a certain sense you get from the community in that situation. And for that period of time, it literally was, you know, a backpack, a sleeping bag, some plastic bags to keep the wet off, and every day constantly thinking, where to doss down tonight. That was the daily thought.
A lack of community housing or affordable rental options meant Mark was forced to turn to private rooming houses for accommodation.
In the end, I got some suggestions about seeking out help from a housing service, which I did for the $210 a week. I was given a key to a door, and inside that room was a mattress on the floor. That was it. You could go out in the morning or afternoon and come back hours later and find you had a new bunkie in the next room. And I moved through a number of those rooming houses. These small suburban rooming houses are littered throughout everywhere in Melbourne. Every suburb you could think of has got some of them.
But rooming houses did not provide a solution for Mark.
The real issue for me about rooming house living came when I had to find accommodation urgently on a Friday afternoon and was given one address in Melbourne and was told, that's it, that's the only bed in Melbourne. If you want it, take it. And I thought up to that point that I lived in some pretty poor accommodation, some pretty badly managed, badly run, and certainly grossly overpriced accommodation. But a whole new world opened up to me in Glen Iris. This was a 7-bedroom mansion at one stage, which had 32 adult males living in it. 7 men in a bunk room, all with a whole range of issues and reasons for being there. But to be cast into that environment where surviving the night, surviving with your possessions, surviving with your head intact was always a question, daily. I stayed there 7 months, not because I didn't have other options, but because something about the depravity of that house and what we were expected to put up with, and by we I mean the men living there, triggered something in me to fight back. And I did that. I took the owner of that rooming house through a 6-month battle through the courts, VCAT, the Magistrates Court, finally the Sheriff's Office. I'm also involved in actions against them in the Supreme Court. The whole reason that I started that legal battle with the owner of that property was over a broken toilet. And the partner owner has qualifications in building maintenance. A 15-minute job on his part would have saved a 6-month legal battle and may have actually seen some rooming houses stay up. And not that I would wish anyone to live in a rooming house run by that person.
It was this battle against this rooming house that gave Mark his life back.
I'd reached a point, the bottom or the end, and I made a decision somewhere within me to find the fight and the fire that I used to have in my life before alcohol, and I did it without alcohol. Amazingly enough, I dried out in a cesspool rooming house in Glen Iris, and that's one of a number of rooming houses around this city which are being run purely for profit and with no consideration for the residents.
As Mark slowly returns to the man he was before, he's piecing his life back together and focusing on the future.
My life has turned around profoundly in a matter of months for a whole range of reasons. I found ways to take control of a number of the problems I was confronting: alcohol, social isolation, anxiety, a whole lot of other things have come together in terms of support structures, in terms of people in a position to help me. I've ended up in public housing. The greatest thing about it now is that I'm rebuilding a relationship with my family. Because of all the regrets, all that I've lost, the possessions, in the end you realise they really do not matter. It's now having a secure, safe, place that is of comfort to me. It is so vitally important to have a sense of stability, and it's been the most important thing in being able to reconnect with my family, and it is magical in that way, because it can be ended. There is no impossibility about it, but it's a big ask. It's going to take time, but it needs the community to understand that homelessness can be very close to them, much closer than they think. It's been said that many people are one pay packet away from being homeless, but with stresses on employment, on wage rates, on the availability of work to particularly our young people, the issues of homelessness are going to become more and more a focus in the community. Always with things like this, early intervention and prevention are always going to be the better answers, but it requires investment and a social conscience from government.